Let's make some guitar noises with Firmware 28 Beta for the Axe FX3. This overhauls the compressor block, and there's a bunch of new types, including an 1176, an LA2A model, a new Dynacomp model, and the Rockman compressor, which is modeled as the Rock Guy compressor. We're going to start there because I recently did a preset build on my channel going through how I'd recreate the Rockman Clean 2 mode. MXR have also recently reissued the Rockman X100, which loads of people have been digging. What I was doing previously was using a tilt EQ before a compressor and a chorus to get that clean 2 sound. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it at the end of this video. But now what I've found, the Rock Guy compressor, set the compression to taste. I've got it around 7, and just crank the tone control all the way up. Use it with some chorus. I'm using the analog stereo chorus over here, and you've got that classic 80s clean. I love that you can just use a single compressor block and a chorus to cop that Rockman Clean 2 sound. Because it's a standalone type in the compressor block though, you can just use it in any rig build that you like. I find having the tone control somewhere between around 3 and 5 and the compression somewhere again around 3 and 5 can just add a little bit of spice to your existing guitar sound. So let's hear it with the Class A 30-watt Brilliant. This is my favorite Vox style amp in the Axe FX3. My free cab IR and a little bit of gold plate reverb. I'm now in the neck and middle position of this Strat. Let's move on to some other compressor types placed before the amp in here. The MXR Dynacomp is an absolute classic. Of course, based on the Ross compressor circuit in here. These can get fairly gnarly sounding as well. So there's a Dynamicomp Classic, there's a Dynamicomp Modern, and there's also an economy version of the Dynamicomp in here. Let's just hear the Classic. You'll notice there's now a drive control in the compressor block. This is going to be really cool when we take a look at the 1176 base model on here to just add a bit of grit. But yeah, this is doing the Dynacomp thing. doing that squishy Dynacomp thing that we all know. Whether you want that out of a compressor or not is really going to depend on your taste and what style you're playing, but it is a staple across a lot of styles, including my absolute C- grade country chops there. Let's move on to the JFET compressors. There's a JFET pedal compressor and a JFET studio compressor. The studio compressor gives you access to the emphasis and drive controls on here. This is going to do the 1176 style thing, so I'm going to set the ratio to 4 over here. In front of the amp, it can do that thing where it gives your clean sound more heft and more sustain. It's like all the advantages of distortion and saturation, but on a clean sound. And if you're a slide player, try this stacked with the optical comp or 2 JFET studio compressors in there for a classic slide tone. But first, let's just hear this low gain sound. It's a low gain sound for me. It might be a high gain sound for you, but it's low gain for me. This one is lovely at the end of chain for your lower to edge of breakup sounds on there. It kind of embiggens any guitar sound. I set the threshold so I'm getting somewhere between 3 and 6 dB of compression on there, depending on what I'm playing. Otherwise, it's all at the stock settings except for the ratio, which I've turned up to 4, and the input level, which I've set to line because it's after the amp. Studio types essentially make the guitar sound a little more produced and finished, and they're great with less intense levels of distortion coming out of the amp. You still get the interaction between your guitar and the front end of the amp model, but you're just adding a little bit of extra finishing sauce at the end. Let's hear the optical compressor. So this is going to be more your LA2A style comp, and then the very new tube compressor on here. Same kind of vibe. got to hear this with some giant chungus, right? So I've got my live preset in here. I've got the FAS Stealth Blue, my free cab IR. Normally I'd use a gold plate reverb, but the reverb block has had some improvements on the types based on natural spaces. So I really like this Mechanics Hall. I'm going to roll with that. Bit of detune at the end, and then we'll hear what the JFET Studio compressor and the VCA bus compressor can do in here. So the VCA bus compressor is based on an SSL style bus compressor over there. The JFET Studio comp, I've just kept the drive down really low on this one. Just going to add a little bit of grit, but again, both of these can just give your guitar sound that little bit of extra something. Pull up sumps right there. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, you can support me directly on Patreon, or you can check out some of the music that I make with my band Ragdoll. Let me know your favorite new compressor type in here and how you're using or how you're planning to use these. Again, it's a free update. It's in the beta stage at the moment, so you can wait for the full release if you're gigging or recording. Like, don't update your firmware in those situations. Wait a couple of extra days and get the official release. But if you're like me and you just love new stuff, go and check it out and let me know what you think. I'll see you on the next one.